So what would you say is your favorite memory of St. Joe's?
Father Dismas's years here. Sometimes hairy, sometimes stressful, sometimes just so much fun.
Yeah.
Just so much fun. Because I always called myself unpaid staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd come in and I'd do stuff that wasn't on anybody's job description and it needed to be done. Whether it was take his car to get it washed because I thought it looked terrible and he was going to a meeting and he was going to be the driver for the other priests.
Right.
And there were just all kinds of things. He was one who would, on maybe a Friday night when he was going to have a meeting on Saturday, and maybe he was going to cook.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to have chili lunchtime. So maybe at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, oh yeah, I haven't been to the grocery yet. Well, I could anticipate that.
Right.
In the morning. And I just ask, if you'll put a list together of what you want, I'll get it and I'll bring it back and put the gold stuff away. And that just, I always thought that there were ways I could help,
Mm-hmm.
that there wasn't anybody else to do it. So that was one of the fun things. I just thought there were a lot of fun activities that drew the people together, and we had small groups, and there was a lot of bonding that to this day, when I see certain people who came into the church in the 80s, there's just that special. I just can't describe it.
Certain bonds.
It's just certain bonds, yes, because they shared where they had been on their journey, and I said I learned as much from them as they ever learned from us.
Mm-hmm.
It was very good, no matter whether they were Baptists or Methodist or whatever.
So what is your favorite memory of St. Joe's?
Oh my goodness.
And if you have a couple, that's fine.
Well, I think there are some, for me, that are both liturgical and non-liturgical. At one time when I was on the parish council, we were trying to find a way to sort of build community. So we decided to have a New Year celebration, sort of between New Year's and spring. And at the time, Terry Rasmussen was our pastor. Dennis Thompson was our associate pastor. And we promised the entire parish a special event and surprise. We had a DJ. Actually, was Paul Myers still here when you came to the
Yeah,
apartment?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, excuse me, Dean Myers. Dean's son, Paul, was the DJ.
Okay.
And there were three of us, four of us, Keith Rubel, myself, Terry Dowell, and Craig, I can't remember his last name. He's a jeweler in town. Anyhow, we did a surprise performance in drag of the Supremes. And needless to say, that for years was brought back to us.
I can imagine.
As the performance. And then that was followed by Father Terry and Father Dennis doing...
It was Randy Kim.
Oh, was it Randy Kim?
Terry.
I'm sorry, Randy and Terry. Doing the Blues Brothers. Briefcase full of blues. They
Okay.
followed us. So that's one. And another thing that we did as a project for about 6 years was we used to run the elephant ear concession at the banks of the Wabash Festival. And again, it was some of us trying to find a way to do some additional fundraising for the parish that could be a good opportunity to involve as many of the parishioners as possible, to build up fellowship and camaraderie. We did that for about 6 years. So.
My children were baptized here. My children were married here. My grandchildren were baptized here. Courtney was married here.
Mm-hmm.
Her little guy will be baptized the 22nd. So he'll probably be the what? Fifth, sixth, seventh generation to be baptized here.
How long have you been a parishioner here at St. Joseph's University Parish?
Well, all of my life I was born in the parish and baptized here and made my first communion. Went to grade school.
Okay, so
So you can call that 83 years.
do you remember your first communion?
Oh, yes. I remember my first communion, and the girls wore white and wore little veils. And we had, each child had another young child with them that was dressed like their guardian angel.
Oh, wow.
And they walked in with them.
Okay. So how old were you? Were you second grade then for first communion?
First grade,
First grade.
yeah.
So who was your guardian angel? Was it a sister or?
No, isn't that terrible? I got the picture at home. It was just one of the older school children,
Okay. Okay.
no relative. They had some of the younger boy children from the parish that were dressed as pages, and they wore these white satin outfits, and they walked in procession, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't receive their communion because they were too young yet. But this one thing I do remember, one of the schoolboys was serving Mass. It was a weekday.
Mm-hmm.
And the front door must have been open, and his dog came in church. And this boy was up on the altar getting ready to serve, and the dog just came in, went up, and sat down right behind him. So then as the Mass went along, every time the boy moved, the dog moved. And the communion rail at that time was just a long rail, you know, you
Yep.
didn't go up individually.
Yes, I remember.
So when they were giving communion, if I remember correctly, the server went along with the paten,
Right.
and then the priest came along, and then the dog came along. It was a riot. So after Mass, this dog kept following them, doing everything they were doing. And after Mass, I remember when they walked off the altar, it was like the priest and server and the dog. And
For the recessional.
then you heard this loud yelp. You know, you can only assume what happened. The dog was not invited back. But it was humorous. Another thing, before air conditioning came in the summers, it really got hot in there, and they had fans on the walls and everything. So in the summer, there's windows up in the choir. There's a round rose window. Two of those you could open.
Okay.
And once in a while, when we had them open, there'd be a pigeon that would come and sit on there, and sometimes they'd fly around the church. So that I always remember too.
Right. What about the church bells? And now we have the bells that I think are kind of electronic recording where
Yeah.
there was a
Yeah,
bell
they
that somebody
used
had to
to
ring.
have,
What is one of your earliest memories of the church here?
I think one of my earliest memories I remember was when Father Dismas was here, and we used to get together at Easter time down in the Gregorian room, and it would be packed, and we used to do a Seder supper, and it was really quite cool because we had all the he had all the parts, and we did all the traditional things with dipping your parsley in salted water and the bones and the gefilte fish, and it was really quite fun. And that was when I really made the association between what I knew as the Last Supper and the scene in Jesus Christ Superstar as the Last Supper, and that we were actually doing all that. And I thought it was really cool.
Do you have any other interesting memories of St. Joe's here, of your own, before we turn to some of those from your dad?
Well, I mean, I can remember we used to have a Christmas choir that we'd always form just at Christmas time to sing for midnight mass, and I used to always join that. And I remember being up in the choir loft for Christmas Eve service and just thinking how cool that was. So that was one of my good memories.
Are there any other stories that you can think of to share with us, or?
No, it's just lots of good memories. My favorite are the Seder suppers. I wish we'd do them again. I would like to do a Seder supper that's not necessarily a deanery ride, but maybe a citywide, and they do it out at St. Mary's. And on Thursday night, we go out and have a big Seder supper. Mm-hmm. Sell tickets so that you know how many are coming, and then go out there for a Seder after we've all had our individual services.
Right.
It would be really cool, because I don't think, I can remember coming home from a Seder supper and asking my mom, so does that mean that we all started out as Jewish? Because I made a lot of connections with the Seder.
Right.
And I think a lot of people would make connections that they maybe have never made before. So it was really good.